In the time before Europeans colonized the North American continent, millions of native people lived and thrived throughout the states that are today known as Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, and Florida. Over a millennium ago, the first known conflict between Native American peoples and Europeans broke out in what is today called Newfoundland, which is located on the northeast coast of Quebec, Canada. Sometime around the year 985, Viking settlers, guided by the infamous Thor Eriksson, son of Eric the Red, led approximately 50 Viking warriors on the shores of Newfoundland. It is said that almost immediately fighting broke out against the indigenous peoples. Think about it, wouldn't you be scared if a bunch of big scary Vikings pulled up in front of your house and started setting up their home in your living room? The natives were too, and they could be pretty tough themselves, so they decided to fight back. As a result of that battle, Thor died after taking an arrow in the armpit. I'll bet that stung in the shower. During the 17th century, the Powhatan Confederacy of Tribes, named after the powerful chief Powhatan, had many skirmishes with the colonists of Virginia. Chief Powhatan had a daughter, Pocahontas, who eventually married a colonist named John Rolfe. She later changed her name to Rebecca, most likely so that it would be easier to find a Disneyland license plate with her name on it. In 1830, through an act of Congress, President Andrew Jackson forced tribes including Cherokee, Choctaw, and Seminole to relocate to the west in order to take ownership of their lands. During the 19th century, over 100,000 people were kicked out of homes and land their families had lived in and cultivated for over hundreds, probably thousands of years. The U.S. government sent thousands of army troops to force native people from their homes. Cherokee people called this the Trail of Tears. Extremely harsh conditions, including scorching heat and sub-zero winters, made survival extremely difficult for the weary travelers. The natives tried to pack as much corn, beans, squash, and sunflowers that they could carry in order to provide food during the trek. Some Native Americans called corn maize. When available, families would have deer or rabbit to add much-needed protein to their diets. The natives also used the animal's fur to help protect them from the bitter winter cold. Imagine being kicked out of your home, having to walk over 1,000 miles with only your most important possessions, food and clothing, in a pack on your back. What would you take? The tribes mainly settled in the states of Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, and Texas on what the U.S. government called reservations. Along the way, as many as 20,000 people died from disease, starvation, and extreme conditions. Years later, once the U.S. government was forced to admit that what they had done was unjust, it had tried to make reparations to the later generations of Native Americans. The Trail of Tears, along with slavery and the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, are just some of the examples of U.S. government's failure to recognize basic human rights. If our government is unable to learn from the mistakes of its past, it is destined to make similar mistakes. As American citizens, it is our duty to speak out against such atrocities by letting our representatives here in Utah, as well as those in Washington, D.C., know that we will not support such inhumane policy. It is my hope that as you hear stories about people like the Syrian refugees and illegal immigrants, that you realize that all of these folks are human beings. Thank you and good night.